Very important change for Golden Visa applicants in this case. We'll talk about Golden Visa today, but as you may or may not know, the NHR has gone away, and as of 2025, if you're coming to Portugal, you can no longer get an NHR, but there is a new tax benefit, TISRI, the Tax Incentive for Science, Research and Innovation, which may be just as good and in some cases even better, but it's a lot less straightforward in understanding it, and we'll talk about this today. I'm Zev Fisher, the founder of Fresh Portugal. With me, Manuela Sena, who runs our immigration department, and Raquel Simoes from our tax department. And we'll talk today about the intersection between tax and Golden Visa. But maybe, Manuela, we can start by generally grouping the Golden Visa applicants are people who are investing a significant amount of money. Some of them just to get a Portuguese passport, never intend to come.
Well, the Golden Visa does not require the applicant to permanently move to Portugal. The applicant only needs to be in the country for 1 week per year. So, well, maybe the Golden Visa is great for someone who maybe they want the possibility to move in the future and more like a plan B, right?
Right. And we see now that everyone was unhappy with the politics of the country that they live in.
They want
the possibility. They want to say, oh, if things go really wrong, I want to be able to move. And then we have Golden Visa applicants, which are people who have a plan to move in 4 or 5 years, and maybe they're not sure that the D7 will exist at that time.
Exactly.
And
also citizenship is important for them because they want this with a certain urgency. So so I'll have a Golden Visa, I'll submit my Golden Visa now, and then in 5 years I have the possibility to become a Portuguese citizen. So it's great for someone who maybe right now they are not ready to stay in Portugal, but maybe in the future.
So someone who wants to move to Portugal right now and live in Portugal, there's no point in a Golden Visa.
No.
Right?
Then if the applicant is already certain to move to the country, then we advise a D7, a D8, maybe a D3 for how to qualify for professionals. But not the Golden Visa. The Golden Visa is, as I said, it does not require the applicant to move to Portugal. If you want, you can move, but it's not mandatory for you to fulfill minimum stay requirements in the country like a D7 or a D8.
So if you want to move right now, not a Golden Visa. If you don't care about, you don't intend to ever move to Portugal, you're just doing this for the passport, this video is irrelevant for you. You can do the Golden Visa, but this video about how you get tax benefits, you don't care because you're never going to live here. But if you're the sort of person that wants to have the option in the Plan B community, you want to have the option to move to Portugal in 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 years, then you should care about taxes, because once you live in Portugal is a high tax country, but it could be a very low tax country if you get the tax benefits. So you really should care about tax benefits when you apply for the Golden Visa.
And also, I think it's also important to say that maybe if you have a Golden Visa and you think you're not officially moving, staying in Portugal, but if you stay over 183 days, they could be considered as tax residents.
Yeah, you could accidentally become a tax resident. So if you already have the Golden Visa, then tax is also of interest to you, and this video is also relevant for you. But that's kind of roughly dividing the people. If you want to come now, no need for Golden Visa. If you never want to come, this video is irrelevant for you. But if you want to have the option, tax is very important. The NHR is gone. What's next? And that is what we're here to discuss today. So just before I jump to Raquel to talk about TISRI and how it actually works, Golden Visa for real estate investment is gone. So the main route now is the funds, right? It's not the only one, but it's the main one. And the funds are a competitive space, right? I mean, the funds, they really want your money. So you can talk to them, and there's a lot of leverage at this point, which is why when you decide on the Golden Visa, that is the time to pick a route that optimizes your taxes as well. So maybe with that, Raquel, can you give us like a brief of how TISRI works as opposed to NHR, and how do you get into that system? What does it do for you? Maybe what are the benefits first before how it works?
So one of the key differences between the NHR and TISRI, the NHR 2.0, is that the NHR had one single route, right? You moved to Portugal, provided you were not a tax resident before, you could get a tax residency and the special tax regime, and that was pretty much it. With the new tax regime, TISRI, you have to comply with one of the many routes that it has available. So there is, for instance, the export company route, which a lot of people actually have been asking us about, but it's not necessarily the most useful for golden visa applicants, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on that. But turning back to the golden visa applicants, one of the routes that might be more interesting, and going back actually to the fund investment option, which tends to be the most popular these days, right, Manu?
Yeah.
Well, it can be an option for TISRI as well. So let's say that you're not indeed ready to move to Portugal now, but you start the golden visa process because it fits your needs. You can use this and go discuss it and negotiate it with the funds in order to leverage your investment, whether it may be the exact same amount or a specific investment or a higher amount. I mean, the conditions are negotiable, right? And use this to get the tax regime access, basically. So you can use one investment for both purposes.
Yeah, to get a golden visa, and then maybe in the future, if the applicant decides to move, you also have the possibility to get
Exactly.
the tax regime.
So to clarify, I think just to understand how the system works, investment is not the criteria for getting the new tax benefit, but a different type of involvement in this case in the startup ecosystem
Exactly.
is, and the idea was kind of very broadly looking into this. When NHR was created many years ago, Portugal needed cash. So the idea was, let's try and get people to bring their money into Portugal when they earn it overseas. But the adverse effect, the unwarranted consequence was that people were actually disincentivized or even deterred from actually investing their money inside Portugal. And we had to advise people, look, Portugal is a great place to invest in, but actually it's your foreign income that's exempt from the benefits. And this is part of what this new regime is trying to fix. The new regime is trying to tie an actual involvement and contribution to the local technology or otherwise investment or export ecosystem with tax benefits. So you have to be a positive actor that does something good for the local economy.
Yeah.
And one of these things is a position within a startup company, right? So it could be an employment position or a board position, but you need to play a role within the local ecosystem. And your golden visa investment can facilitate that. So maybe a little bit more about that. Okay.
Yeah, so in essence, what you need to do to get the new tax regime is to have, as I was saying, an employment position or a board position within a Portuguese certified startup, and the certified part is rather important. It needs to comply with some requirements. It's not just any company. It's not enough that it has something innovation-wise. I mean, it needs to be certified. Just be careful with this small detail that is very important. And once you do reach a certified startup and you have that position within the company, you can then access all the exemptions that TISRI allows. So all foreign sourced income fully exempt in Portugal, except for the obvious loser in comparison to the NHR, which is pensions. But you still have interests, dividends, so all capital income, let's say, capital gains, rental income, self-employment, and employment income. So anything except pensions pretty much is exempt, provided it is foreign sourced and not sourced in a tax haven. This part is also important. But the reasoning behind using your golden visa investment to get TISRI down the line is you can discuss it with the funds. Some are a little bit more open to this, and some are not even aware that they can do this actually. But it's talking to the funds and trying to find a solution that works for them in terms of getting investment, and for you in terms of getting your your visa in Portugal, and getting to move around as freely as you can, and also getting tax benefits once and if you're ready to move to Portugal.
So the Golden Visa funds landscape being a competitive landscape, we work regularly with the funds to facilitate that. So if you don't know a Portuguese startup that you can get yourself on the board of, we will help you find somewhere where you can hopefully make a contribution as well. And I'll come back to that in a moment because it's also a very important part of all of this. But if it is still possible to get into the new scheme, it's very possible to get into the new scheme, certainly as a Golden Visa investment at the time that you're making an investment. And the fund will help you achieve that. And everyone is happy. I mean, this is one of the nice things about how this whole thing has emerged, almost coincidentally, because it's political lobbying from different directions. But the outcome is that someone who comes to Portugal now and wants tax benefits actually does something useful.
Yes.
And the companies want that, and the funds want that, and the government wants that. So it really is a win-win. But it has to be done at the time when you're negotiating the investment. So you have to work with the funds that get that, with the lawyers that get that, and can facilitate all of that process. And you mentioned you get all of your foreign sourced income except for pension exempt. I think that the term pension is a bit confusing. We're generally talking about retirement accounts, but then some things are not exactly retirement accounts, and some things are quasi-retirement accounts, so you have to look at the detail. But for example, for people heavily reliant on income from capital gains from securities, this is a game changer. And in some ways, I mean, Americans are actually not standing to benefit massively because they already enjoy the benefits from capital gains. But non-Americans are now suddenly a major beneficiary. And a very interesting demographic that's a big beneficiary is non-Americans who are expecting significant capital gains, either in the form of an exit from a company or in the form of significant securities portfolio that before could not come to Portugal and enjoy an exemption, and under the new scheme that they can.
So basically with the NHR, what happened is it was required for the income to be able to be subject to taxation abroad. So the source country had to have the right to tax it, regardless of whether they actually taxed it or not, in order to then exempt it in Portugal. This was something that was very rare. So national Americans obviously could use this because under the double tax treaty, they could be taxed based on their nationality, and therefore all of their income in reality could be taxed by the US, and the exemption in Portugal would apply. But for most people, and I can think of one exception to this as well, which is Brazilians. So if you had capital gains from Brazil, the same happened, not necessarily based on nationality, but just based on the provisions of the double tax treaty that mentioned explicitly that capital gains could be taxed there. But other than these two wonderful exceptions, there were none. So if you had huge capital gains from a financial portfolio, you could expect being taxed in full in Portugal, which was a huge problem to many of our clients. TISRI resolves this problem and brings a full exemption, non-questions asked, essentially.
Well, it's really, Portugal is signaling that it wants young entrepreneurial people more than before, and it is willing to give them an even better package than the one under NHR. And that's combined with the new tax benefit for young people as well. But on the other hand, it's saying, well, the pensioners that used to be able to come here and pay almost no tax, first no tax and then almost no tax, they will have to pay. Well, they're still welcome. The visa options are still open, but they will have to pay tax on their pension income just like everyone else. So not as attractive to pensioners as before. This is kind of the main change. I think it's interesting that a few funds have already picked up on that, but as a general, well, we're just early days. We're in January 2025 now. This is all just started. But it's interesting to see that the early movers are already on board, and they work with us and figured out how to do that. But the general industry is still completely unaware that you can utilize a golden visa to qualify yourself under TISRI.
Yeah.
So yeah, we see. So this is part of why we're doing this. So the hope is to try and educate everyone as quickly as possible. But yeah, I think a super interesting thing is that when people move, they have all sorts of dreams and aspirations on how their life in Portugal is going to look like. And one of the hardest things that people discover when they're moving to another country is that actually you can be pretty lonely as an expat. And you work remotely, or you don't work, you're retired. And it takes a long time before you build a social network and you connect and you become part of something and part of the community in some way. And some people, they never do. And a lot of people, they don't manage to do that and they leave. And in forcing people to participate in the local ecosystem and taking a role, and a startup role is a good example of that. You're actually bringing people into the country in a much more meaningful way, and you're also allowing them to make a contribution to the economy, to society, and utilize their many skills that they've honed over years and do something useful with them. And I think this is a wonderful outcome. So although, like many other things, people do that maybe as the immediate incentive is a tax benefit, we feel that it's actually a really good thing for people's integration. And part of the work that we've been doing here at Fresh is trying to expose, and we're planning a whole video series on this, trying to expose the tech ecosystem in Portugal to people so that they know that there are really good companies here, really good opportunities, really driven people that are working on really cool things. And now the very talented expats that have otherwise been completely unaware of this would be a synergic win-win type match, and that is very exciting, I think.
Absolutely.
Right, so on that optimistic note, if you're looking into a golden visa and you want to talk about how to do that in a tax efficient way, you know where to find us. Well, I suspect there's going to be a caption with some more details as well. And talk to Manuela, Raquel, or me, or one of the other lawyers here at Fresh. And thank you very much for joining this video.